Warning: the following video elaborates on several key plot points in the game Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. This review assumes you have completed the game, or you're at least aware of major plot points in the game's narrative. Please do not watch if you intend to play this game without any prior knowledge of the narrative. For a spoiler-free review of the game, click the following link. At the end of my spoiler-free review, I noted the oddness of the game's title, Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright. People who have played the majority of the game will agree that a more suitable title would have been Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright, Partners in Crime, or something along those lines. What I'm trying to say is there really isn't any rivalry between the crime-solving duo. They don't even try to outperform each other at solving cases. So why do I think the word versus is rather interesting and works well as a title despite being slightly misleading perhaps to the audience? If you recall in the final case of the game, Phoenix and Layton both face each other with Layton taking over as Inquisitor. I believe the title is actually referencing this very moment. A pivotal point in which the only path to the truth is both parties arguing against each other until they reach a logical conclusion. Granted, that's what the lawyers of the Ace Attorney universe are meant to do. However, I can only assume they decided to name the game in its entirety after this scene alone. Perhaps I'm thinking into it too much. I tend to do that, so apologies. It's just something I found noteworthy. Truth be told, I've been rewriting this review since I published the spoiler-free one, as I've struggled to think of anything new to say about the game's narrative I didn't cover in that video. Nevertheless, I have a few things I'd like to address. The general consensus seems to be that the game has a very strong narrative, and I can attest to this. But, and I am afraid there is a but, I'll elaborate on what I consider the flaw in this otherwise well-rounded story last of all in this review. First and foremost, I enjoyed every case in this game. I found them all incredibly interesting. However, if I had to choose a favourite, it would be the case in which Layton is turned to gold. It certainly wasn't something I saw coming, and I thought it was very funny to see Maya at the centre of yet another trial in her lifetime. Something else I found rather intriguing was when Maya was plunged into the fire pit. I assumed she wasn't dead, however the moment and what followed after was still incredibly engaging and emotional. Especially watching Phoenix cope with what he considered at the time to be a devastating loss. I also felt for young Luke, who was under the impression he too had lost a good friend, giving him and Phoenix a reason to bond and come together to seek the truth. When the twist finally came around to reveal that those plunged into the fire pit were in fact initiated into shades, the narrative suddenly had me invested enough to stay interested. I believe the characters played a big part in keeping the story rich, as I meant what I said in my spoiler-free review. They are all full to the brim with personality. I find it hard to pick a favourite. At first I wanted to dislike Isabella, perhaps it was her voice, but something about her just seemed rather whiny. Despite this, I'm pretty indifferent about her. While I wasn't motivated to stop her jumping to her demise during the final act, I wasn't about to give her a hand either. No, don't do it. Darklaw and the Storyteller on the other hand, I thought were brilliant. There was an element of mystery surrounding them both that I just couldn't wait to uncover. I thought the twist that Darklaw was also responsible for the Great Fire was really well played on the game's behalf, but I'll come back to the ending soon. The puzzles were fun for the most part, however they weren't challenging compared to other Layton games. Enjoyable, yes, brain-busting, not really. Again, I can't pick a favourite puzzle, they were all remarkably charming, and that puzzle theme, heck, I could listen to that theme anytime, anywhere. It's simply therapeutic, and indisputably perfect at setting the mood for solving puzzles. Except for that goat puzzle. Ugh! What do I do? I also thought the pacing of the game was near on perfect. Sometimes the court segments could have gone a little faster, however, the overall pacing suited the narrative, and all the information it had to establish. On that note, I feel like I've sung the game's praises enough, and would like to get to my one major gripe with Layton vs Wright. The one thing that lowered my overall opinion of the game from a god tier title to that of a great one. Despite all the slack I'm about to give a certain aspect to the game's story, I still immensely enjoyed it, and look forward to many more playthroughs in the future. So without further ado, allow me to start what is essentially a rant. I'm sure most people won't like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to be honest. I didn't like the ending of this game. Now, before you write a paragraph in the comments about how clever and ingenious the ending is, allow me to make my case. First of all, I'd like to recreate my reaction to the twist of the game, in which the storyteller announces,
"There's no such thing as magic."
Oh snap, I didn't see this coming. I wonder how they're gonna explain everything. As long as they don't resort to, it was all a dream, this should be fantastic. Wait. The government? Tainted water? Where are you going with this game? Okay, surely Layton will reveal the secret behind the town, and as per usual with his games, it will all make sense. Alright, here we go! Cranes? Really? Invisible cranes. Invisible cranes! To be blunt, I thought it was very convoluted. Okay, allow me to attempt to establish what the game has been trying to say this whole time. Volunteers have committed themselves to being brainwashed into believing they live in a fictional world in which magic and witches exist. Okay, I can buy that. Continue. Witches' duties are carried out by shades, who put people to sleep with bells made of pure silver, an effect caused by the water of the land the town is built on. The shades themselves can move around freely, as they wear cloaks which are pure black. Everyone in the town has been hypnotized to not see anything of this particular color. You know what? I can accept that too. As far-fetched as it is, why not? This program is funded by the government on request of the storyteller, who only started this facade in order to maintain the illusion that his daughter was not the cause of a fire in which the previous residents of Labyrinthia were burned to death. By convincing her it was a witch, he kept her from feeling distraught with guilt, blaming herself for the accident. This is where things start to get real convoluted real fast. Arthur Cantabella, known to the people of Labyrinthia as the storyteller, is also the owner of a research facility, which is responsible for the technology and charades which keep magic real in Labyrinthia, such as cranes. First of all, why on earth did the British government agree to such a project? It's not like research on hypnotism and the study of the effects of pure silver couldn't have been carried out for a significantly cheaper amount if they didn't agree to build a whole freaking town with all sorts of complex structures. I'm sorry, but even if it's a possibility that doesn't conflict with reality, so is Layton and Wright making out at the end of the game, and that, unfortunately, doesn't happen. Finally, let's move on to what I find wrong with this twist the most. I will concede that between utilizing the ability to put townsfolk to sleep, as well as carrying out complex tasks within the boundaries of Labyrinthia, is although far-fetched, possible in the boundaries of the game. I'll even agree that when both Wright and Layton obtain the book about the town, the ink could bring about significant hallucinations. Reading that they're part of the story causes them to see it, and I'll buy this. The game, however, neglects to explain how this little scene is possible.
It's certainly hard to believe, but I do find it fascinating.
Oh, poor thing. Do you want to come in from the rain? Don't open it! Huh? Huh? Professor, what was that?
That, Luke, was a witch.
Is it ever explained how Layton and Luke blatantly observe a witch flying around London Bridge, not to mention those seemingly impossible events occurring in Layton's very office? What the... just how? There's no hallucinogenic materials, hypnotism or cranes going on here, so just how? Are you trying to suggest that there are cranes around or in Layton's office, or there's some sort of chemical in the air? I mean, it's... duh!
This doesn't feel half bad. I object to objectionable puzzles.
Believe it or not, as of writing this review, the DLC for Layton vs. Wright does address the strange occurrences in London, such as the car in the tree and the witch's appearances. However, it's still rather vague about how those events went down. It's not like I want to believe there's a plot hole in this story, it's just the way me and several other people see it. Speaking of which, why does Mr. Cantabella announce he's dying from a terminal illness at the end, only to immediately tell everyone he's going to be fine? I actually have no words for this. Are we meant to sympathize with him or something? I mean, I'm not the only one who thinks this is contrived. Am I? I may be an Ace Attorney fanboy, but I cannot be the only person who disliked the ending to this game as much as I do. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you're a fan of either series and have tackled your fair share of cases. I leave you with this. If anyone can produce a logical explanation as to how the events at the beginning of the game occurred, please create a video response or post a comment. I genuinely want to know, and I'm sure there's someone out there who can perhaps clear things up, and there's something I'm simply not seeing. Regardless of how much I loathe the ending of Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright, I still see it as a fantastic game, which deserves to be played by anyone with a 3DS and a passion for puzzle solving. So that was my opinion on this superb game, and with that I hope many of you share your own points of view and how you felt about the story, including the ending of course. With Dual Destinies and Layton vs. Wright out the way, I'm starting to run out of Ace Attorney content to talk about. Well, there is that new title in the series coming out, not to mention Investigations 2 is in English now. Heck, I could probably do a top 10 based on something like the soundtrack or the villains in the series. I feel like I'm forgetting something that's just begging to have someone analyze the heck out of it. But I can't remember what it is for the life of me. Or maybe I'll do something not related to Phoenix Wright for a change. Who knows? Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to see me talk about Dual Destinies with no spoilers, click the following link. If you'd like to see a friend and I attempt the Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge at 4 o'clock in the morning, click here. On that note, this is Jack Jennings signing out, hoping you have a great day and a better tomorrow.